Hello, hello, hello. We're live.
Oh, well, there was no theme song, so
Oh,
that's what I was waiting for, but that's fine.
no, it's okay. I hit the
Everything's
wrong
been
button.
going really, really great tonight. No, that's all right. We can just hello again, and welcome and welcome back after a very long sojourn to Dark ShadBros. Sorry for that false start, but it's just like an episode of the show, right? It would not be an episode unless something went wrong somewhere along the line. I hope that whoever you are and wherever you are, the weather is a lot nicer than it is in Massachusetts right now. We have our first snow emergency of the. Hey, baby, you want to come up? That's yes. Hello. Okay. Oh, hang on. That's our baby. She's gonna pull out my.
Bob Pierce says this is a big deal. It's
You
been
wanna
quite a
come up?
while.
Yes, you're right, Bob Pierce. It has been a while, and I didn't even have a chance to go back and look to see when we did the last one. Come here, Elf. This is Miss Elphaba, or Elfie. This is the baby. She's a year old. Okay. All right. Okay. She wants in on the show too. She wants to audition to play Joshua the cat.
And Jessica Stevenson says, "Hello, fellas," in her best Carol Channing voice.
Raspberries. Oh wait, there we go. Wait a minute. Wait. She wants up.
There you go.
She wants to watch the snow. Yeah, it's been a long time, Bob Pierce. That's right. I don't remember if it was August. Was it September? It was Barnabas Collins' third wheel. I know. I know that.
And we are just inundated with kitties. They're all over the place.
Yes, there's Wheezy Boo and Elfie Boo, and Nuggy Boo is the
Somewhere.
middle baby, the 2-year-old, is off doing something anyway. But we're back. We're back, and it's been a long time because it's weird how life will get in the way of these things. Probably, hopefully, shows that we have a life, that we don't always, have to be doing this. Oh, you have a tux too. Aw, well, that's great, Gary. We love tuxes. We love our black cats as well. We had two. We had Thelma and Louise, and we lost Thelma to kidney disease when she was 7 years old. But we have her sister Wheezy, who's going to be 15 on June 10th. And then Elfie, Miss Elphaba, just turned a year old this past August. And then Nuggy turned 2 years old on Halloween. So, and he's a sweetheart. He's getting a big booty. He is an Italian kitty. He likes to go back for seconds and thirds. So
Collins Port 4099. We're so glad that you got the notification too. It is clear and cold by her, but here it is snowing profusely.
it was clear as a dime, and then all of a sudden they issued a snow emergency, which they kind of sort of need. They didn't do as good with. They didn't do as well with Halloween tourism this year was down a little bit because of the tariffs. And if you don't like that comment, you're at the wrong show. We're certainly with the wrong group of people. But yes, Halloween tourism was down because of the tariffs. We didn't get Canadians.
Nope.
We have a friend who works in the Historical Society who informed us of that. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. So now the town will get a whole bunch of money because of these cars that have to be off the street. Luckily, we have our own parking space, so it's not like when we lived here originally, and it was a nightmare. It was like, what do we call it? The Hunger Games?
Exactly.
To get a parking spot when there was a snowstorm. So anyway, but yeah, I can't remember when that. If anybody can look that up, I don't know when we did Barnabas Collins' Third Wheel. I have no idea.
It was August.
It was August. Wow. Yeah. So
Been too long.
And we are so sorry that Michael is not with us tonight, but I do hope that we will see Michael soon. We actually chatted earlier this week. I think it was earlier this week or last week.
Nope, earlier this week.
You know, we had a almost a 3-hour chat. So anyway,
but we
Michael, wherever you are out there, I hope you're okay. I hope everything is well. I believe it's snowing pretty hard in Maryland as well too. So perhaps that is what is keeping you from joining us this evening. But a lot's happened. I hope everybody had a good. And please, guys, chime in. First of all, if you're first time, and I don't know that anybody here is first time around, I am Peter Mack. And there's no reason in the world why you should know who I am at all. No reason in the world. I'm an actor, a musical theater performer. I work primarily now in the kind of cabaret world, and have done. I'm going into my 24th year performing as the woman who was unhesitatingly billed as the world's greatest entertainer, Miss Judy Garland.
Since you were 10.
Yeah, since I was 10. We'll go with that, right. All live, no lip sync, and again, we're going into year 24. November will be my 24th year performing as Judy. I don't only work as Judy, but she's the crown jewel in my cadre of golden age divas that I perform as. Liza Minnelli, who will turn 80 this March, is Liza Minnelli's 80th birthday, and I know she has an autobiography coming out a few days before she turns 80. And who else? Carol Channing, we mentioned earlier. Let's see. Liza, Judy, Carol Channing, Betty Davis, Mae West, Tallulah Bankhead, Dame Edna. A lot of TV ladies as
Elaine
well.
Stritch,
Elaine Stritch, Helen Reddy, Bebe Neuwirth, Gwen Verdon. Very first person I ever stepped foot on stage doing a tribute to. So that's it. And I work as myself as well. I have a show coming up in March called Oz Over the Rainbow and Beyond, which is a salute to 87 years worth of Oz on stage and screen. So from the Judy Garland 1939 film through to The Wiz and Wicked and all of the various adaptations. It's a great evening of trivia and music, which I will be performing as myself. And then on February 15th, I start a show that has been sitting on a shelf since February, 2020. And the show is called Saving Anne Frank, the Meep Geese Story. It is about the lady who valiantly risked her life every day for 2 years to try to save Anne Frank and her family, and several others in hiding in Amsterdam, and ultimately wound up recovering the diary from the attic floor. We would not have the diary of Anne Frank without Meep. And quite honestly, these days we could use a lot more Meeps in this world. I'm sure she would be horrified at what's going on right now. So it's a timely tale, and that's why we're finally getting on its feet. That'll be February 15th and 22nd in Danvers, Massachusetts. And now my other half here, 23 years on March 5th. We're together 23 years.
March 16th.
Sorry, that was your birthday. March 16th.
It's okay.
I got his birthday and our anniversary confused.
I can't believe we're never in the same camera.
We're never in the same camera, no.
Everything is new today. No Michael, all in the same camera, cats galore, inappropriate paintings of people pretending to be Pope. So my name is Dr. John Mack, and I am Peter's other half. Again, 23 years. I've been a fan of Dark Shadows just that long. Peter introduced me to it. I fell in love with the series in the pre-Barnabas episodes, the black and white. And then, of course, Barnabas came, and I was hooked, by the way, in the pre-Barnabas episodes. I just fell in love with the series.
No, you fell in love. You always get this mixed up. John fell in love.
Here we go.
With the Elizabeth Jason story. I was doing some research for a show for one of the Dark Shadows festivals.
That's right. You're right.
I used to write half-hour comedies. I was taking. There had been others before me, but I came in and took on for. From I started writing those. I started attending the festivals in 1990, but in 1997 through to 2009, I wrote about a dozen original situation comedy type. Imagine if Dark Shadows had been a sitcom. And so that was my point of view at it. There had always been comedies, but that was my take on it. I looked at it as a situation comedy. But I was watching the Elizabeth Jason episodes, and John was kind of poo-pooing it off to the side, but it would ask me a question, and then another question, and then another. And then the VHS tape had run out, and it's like, is there another one? Is there more? Wait a minute, it didn't stop there, did it? So that's how he got hooked. So he loved the Elizabeth Jason and the reveal of the trunk in the basement of Collinwood.
I did. That is true.
I interrupted you. Keep going.
No, that's it. And besides falling in love with the show 23 years ago and falling in love with my husband, we, both Peter and myself, have had an opportunity to actually be on stage with several of the actors, and we've also produced productions with the actors. Most notably Mrs. Scrooge with Laura Parker Lamar, who is a very, very, very dear friend of ours, and she also joined in. She wanted to be in several of those comedies, so I got her on stage for that. And but I wrote her last off-Broadway show, which was done in 2007. It was an updated version of A Christmas Carol called Mrs. Scrooge, which we are trying to find the tape for. We actually do have a videotape of it. And I have some pictures, which I meant to show tonight since we were coming off of Christmas, and we didn't do any shows over Christmas of Dark ShadBros. So we'll bring those in for another episode. We still, my friend Sis in Tennessee is like, why haven't y'all done your Laura Parker show yet or your Angelique show yet? It's personal. It's personal. It's hard.
We were close, and we're gonna do it. I said I want to do it when I want to do it the right way. So yeah, we will be paying homage to Miss Parker and to Angelique separately. So, and we just came off of a run of Christmas shows. We were doing the Judy Garland Christmas special in Danvers, Mass, which is where the witch hysteria. Many people don't know this. When you come to Salem, Massachusetts, Salem is where the trials were and where a couple of people lived, most notably Bridget Bishop, who was the first person hanged on June 10th, 1692. Hundreds of years later, Judy Garland would be born on June 10th, 1922. But at any rate, she had her apple orchard and her tavern, not too far from where John and I are sitting now. But Danvers was the original Salem village, and that's where the hysteria started. The house where the Reverend Parris lived and where his daughter was playing some fortune-telling games. They should have been playing the, not the facade, the foundation. The foundation of the Reverend Parris's house is still there in Danvers. And a lot of people overlook Danvers. If you come to Salem, don't. There's a lot of stuff because that's where it all started. So I know I sidetracked a little bit there, but yes. And it was renamed Danvers essentially out of shame. They didn't want to be known as Salem Village. And so that's one of the reasons it was renamed to Danvers. But you can't escape your past.
And there's a mini documentary on Salem that has been on some of the bonus stuff from MPI Video, where Laura Parker, while she was doing research for her book...
For the Salem branch.
So she did a little mini documentary about Salem.
You can watch that on YouTube, I think.
Oh, you can?
It's been uploaded, yeah.
I will find it, and I will put the link in the comments for this video on YouTube. We have some additional comments. Edie Lewis.
Hey, Edie
Hello.
Lewis.
Dana Gregory, glad you're back. Great way to start 2026. Thank you for the compliment, Dana. Appreciate that. Let's see. Gary asks who's going to the DS Fest.
Yes, for those of you who don't know, there's a Dark Shadows Festival in July 31st through August 2nd. Is that it? Or July 30th?
30 days.
Somewhere that,
yep.
Right? That's going to be in Burbank. I believe someone referred to it as the final gathering, which means that will be it. Because at one point, at one of the
final nail in the coffin.
At one point, someone asked the question at one of the Lyndhurst events back in 2021, I think it was. And the answer was that they felt that there was never going to be another Dark Shadows Festival again for various reasons. people living on the East Coast, meaning stars that couldn't get to the West, and vice versa, and time taking its toll, and actors slowly passing on, and also getting older and having health issues that would prevent. So this is wonderful that they're going to be able to do this this last 3-day weekend. It's coming off as an old-fashioned Dark Shadows convention was. I'm actually supposed to be out there mid-July through the beginning of August. I've been asked to work on a musical project, which I really can't talk about.
A secret project.
Yeah, but a very nice team wants me involved in this particular musical project having to do with a particular person, and they want to workshop it for about 4 or 5 weeks. So it looks like I'm going to be out there, or we'll be out there like from mid-July to
Maybe
middle
we'll
of
do
August.
a DS Bros meetup while we're out there. Let's see.
Maybe we will.
Carrie Perwicka says, glad you guys are back. Been on my 6th rewatch of Dark Shadows. Just finished the 1795 storyline, the best storyline, to fill in the gap until tonight.
Well, that's great. That's great, Carrie. Yeah, 1795, for when people ask what's the best, I always say 1795. And we're going to be covering that. We're definitely going to be covering 1795. So stay tuned for that. Doing a nice detailed coverage of 1795, because I think it is my favorite storyline. That in 1967 in general, the introduction to Barnabas and everything leading up to 1795. I personally think that's when the show was at its peak. I'm not saying that it wasn't good later on, but I cite Malcolm Marmosteen and Ron Sproat and Joe Caldwell, that early writing team, as, to me, they were the big guns, and that's not to diss Sam Hall and Gordon Russell and Violet Wells, because I love those writers as well. One of my favorite scenes, which I'll talk about, was written by Sam Hall, in turn of tonight's topic. And so much has happened. Let me just say, how was everybody's end of the year and Halloween and New Year? I think some really cool things happened in the world and some sad things happened in the world. Cool. Jonathan Bailey Fierro in Wicked, and Wicked for Good, named the sexiest man alive by people. They finally got it right.
Indeed.
And Jonathan is an incredible actor. I fell in love with him in Bridgerton. As an actor...
What's not to love?
Yeah, I was going to say, as an actor and for other reasons as well. But also because he's had the cojones to be who he is and what he is and say, it's just acting. I can play a part, and the audience will believe it. So,
yeah.
And I think Jonathan, we're not going to go any further than this. I think Jonathan is extremely suited for one particular role. I wonder who it could be. Just take a look at him in a cutaway coat in Bridgerton, and take a look at his profile. There is one role that I think Jonathan is extremely well suited for, and I'm going to leave it at that. I won't even answer you if you go down that rabbit hole with me. I'm going to leave it there for now.
We have a lot of other comments here,
and then of course the sadness of Rob Reiner and his wife. That was an awful way to come to an end of the year. When Harry Met Sally was the first R-rated movie I ever saw. I mean, come on, look at the legacy. Stand By Me, Princess Bride. It's just so sad.
Yeah.
So our hearts are with the Reiner family. Awful. What an incredible legacy, but I don't think there was any need for that to happen. So, and look at someone who was a part of Light Dark Shadows, this cutting-edge television show, All in the Family, which I grew up with as well. And Lord knows that has its own cult following, and like Dark Shadows will never die. So between his work as Meathead and his incredible work as a director, his legacy will always be around. But that was really sad. And then on another note for myself, my very favorite, and this will throw a lot of people, my very favorite Count Dracula died. I never had a chance to meet him. I got to meet the man who drove the stake through his heart, Joe D'Alessandro. But Udo Kier passed away. And I've always said that...
What a beautiful man.
Who are we talking to? Joe?
Udo.
Oh, Udo, yeah. Udo was a beautiful man. And Blood for Dracula, also known as Andy Warhol's Dracula, is one of my top 3 favorite Dracula movies.
I watched it for the first time this year.
John did a lot of this because he doesn't deal well with blood. And for those of you who have ever seen it, there's a lot of... but I love the way it's filmed. It's filmed at the Villa Frascati, Parisi Frascati, but depending upon who you talk to, which was featured in a lot of Barbara Steele, Dr. Julia Hoffman, in the new, in the NBC Dark Shadows. Several of her classic horror films were filmed there. It's a beautiful mansion. Like Greystone, it's been featured in so many movies in the last, 50, 60 years. So I was so sad when I heard that Udo passed away because I really wanted to meet him. So if you've never seen Blood for Dracula, check it out. Remember this. It is a movie that was made in 1974 and is set in, I believe, 1938. You cannot watch it from a politically correct 2026 lens. You cannot watch it through a 2026 lens. You've got to realize when it was made and also the time that it's set in order to get it and not, clutch your pearls every 2 moments. So anyway, so we love you, Udo, wherever you are. You're up there with Grayson Hall and Joan Bennett and all of those wonderful Dark Shadows people now. I want to take a look at what some of the people have said.
Well, one of the recurring themes that's been said, and we should address it, is that Seaview Terrace was sold.
Yes, that's the other thing. Collinwood was sold to an artist. His name escapes me at the moment. I saw that. I know they've been trying to sell it for a while.
It was supposed to sell for $30 million, but it sold for $16 million.
Oh, see, I've been seeing that it sold for $30 million.
So, can we let's do some research on that. You keep talking, sir.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's great that someone has bought it. It's a little worrisome because you kind of wonder. We knew someone who was trying to get it gentrified and was working very hard at one point to see of its preservation. And I know that this individual did a lot of hard work. I believe, whoops, here you go, Wheezy Boo.
Right there.
Filled out a lot of paperwork and
It sold for $16 million, was on sale for $33 million.
Got it. So, because the house was in... It's not telling tales out of school. If you saw photos, the house has been in a lot of disrepair. I mean, even when Dark Shadows was on the air, you can see pictures of Louis and Alexandra and David Hennessy sitting at the piano and the windows behind them are broken.
Yeah.
And I think that's when it was Salve Regina
College,
the girls' school at that point. So I know it's been in need of a lot of repairs, and hopefully this gentleman will do that. Hopefully he won't destroy or get rid of any of the things. I know the front doors had suffered some of those wonderful doors that Cy Thomasoff had reproduced so beautifully on the show, which are 3 times the size when you see them in person. I was lucky enough to get in the mansion on 3 or 4 occasions. So I'll be curious to see what happens. Is it going to become private? I know that the Carries were very open to Dark Shadows fans coming in. And there were private gatherings that were held there. So I wonder, what does the future hold for Collinwood? Like the Golden Girls house when it sold.
Yeah.
The original owners were very cool. They would even let people in occasionally to take photos. But then it sold and a fence was put up and it was refaced and it kind of looks like it did, but doesn't. I'm not putting it on a level with Seaview Terrace. It's not that kind of a mansion, but it's the original owners knew how important it was to the fans and they left it as is. And the new owners didn't feel that way. So
No.
I wonder what's going to happen to Collinwood.
Let's look at some of the comments. So here,
and I did say someone said it's sad, nothing on the East Coast. Insofar as we know, nothing on the East Coast.
No.
So, they're touting this LA event as the final gathering. Not to say that maybe there couldn't be small events, but who knows?
Bob Pierce said, "Thank you for understanding, Bob. Just do the Laura Parker tribute when you're ready. I went to a tribute in Burbank in 24, and it wasn't very good, unfortunately."
Oh, that was the one. And well, I got to watch. We were going to be there originally. We were going to be there. Katie Hawkins, Laura's daughter, who we've worked with as well, was hoping that we would be there. And unfortunately, again, life gets in the way and we couldn't be there. So we wanted to be there very, very much. The most heartfelt of that, Bob, was the Roger Davis. And poor Roger, he gets raked through the coals because of his characters on the show. I love Peter Bradford. Let me go on record as saying I love Peter Bradford. He is my favorite of all of Roger's characters. And I think he and Vicky made a cute couple. Roger and Lamar were very close. And a lot of the things Roger said, we already knew. How Lamar gave him a place to stay when he needed one. And she really was like family. So when Roger started talking about Lamar, I lost it. Not that the other people were not heartfelt and sincere, but Roger's eulogy to Lamar, that's what got me. I was done by the time he was done talking. He loved her and she loved him. So yeah, we're going to do definitely, we have a Laura tribute and we're going to be focusing on Angelique separate and apart from.
I've been called on a mistake. I made a mistake. This is episode 28, not 27. Barnabas' third wheel was episode 27. So This is episode 28. I will correct that. So thank you, Christiana, for letting me know that. I appreciate it. Bob also goes on to say, Peter, too many people are too offended by everything now. Retro judging TV or films from decades ago. The 2020s are going to face horrible judging at some point, trust me.
Yeah. You're referring to Blood for Dracula, yes, because there are things in there that are, there's a male mentality, let me just put it that way, where Joe D'Alessandro's character is concerned, even though he's the hero. And I won't spoil it for anyone who's never seen the movie, but it deals with, again, a 1938 mentality. So you have to look at it from that point of view.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think sometimes things have gotten too touchy, Bob. I agree with you. There's got to be,
Now, this is true, and I forgot until Gary just said it. Gary says, the first glimpse I ever had of anything DS was when I was little, and there was a commercial advertising the new show that featured Alexandra running across the Seaview Terrace lawn towards the camera.
That's right. And they took a lot of footage of her, which sadly is believed, Gary, to be lost. If I recall, I think it was Darren Gross who said that there was either one or two storage units. Darren can correct me if he ever watches this. He occasionally likes something I'll post on one of the groups. But I believe that Dan Curtis had like two storage units in New York, and they were just kind of liquidated without going through. And it's believed that there's a lot of stuff that would have pertained to Dark Shadows in those storage units. I'm pretty sure I've got this right. And that stuff is now lost to the wind. So there may very well be, there might have been that footage of Alexandra running around Seaview and other stuff that we didn't get to see. But I know what you're speaking of. Yeah. Those are cool photos, and any of that stuff they used early on. It's kind of odd to me that when Jonathan came on the show, they didn't take him up to the old house or to Spratt House, the old house, or to Seaview Terrace to show him, as he would say, skulking around. Makes absolutely no sense to me, because there's an episode where Roger goes to visit Barnabas when he finds out about the marriage between Elizabeth and Jason, and he kind of wants to get Barnabas involved. In fact, they gave Louis a caped coat. They took his regular houndstooth gingham jacket and they gave him a caped coat for one episode, and they show him walking up to the columns at the old house. And I thought, why didn't they do that with Jonathan? They got Louis up there.
Interesting.
Why wouldn't they have done that with Jonathan? So it was kind of odd to me, because it wasn't from a previous pre-Barnabas episode, Louis never wore a caped coat. And we never see him in it again, by the way. It's the only time. I have a feeling they wanted to save the caped coat for Barnabas. That had to be his trademark. So I wish they had done more of that with Jonathan. I wonder if Alexandra will make an appearance at the fest. No, she's never made an appearance, Gary. It's sad. There have been a lot of reasons given as to why. I can say this. The fans love her, and they would not have intruded on her privacy. They would not have gone delving into personal things that happened that really only pertain to her personal life. Some co-stars and some behind-the-scenes people, and it's on video, made some off-color remarks about Alexandra's past, which they should not have done. I mean, here, people worried about the fans. Fans just wanted to meet her and talk about Victoria. Meanwhile, it was some co-stars and behind-the-scenes people who made some off-color remarks. Louis Edmonds got really pissed. I think it was the 1994... Yeah, 1994 festival. I wasn't there, but I saw the videotape. And someone brought it up, and Louis got very upset and said, "What does that have to do with any of this?" He was very upset about that because I believe he stayed very close with Alexandra. So that's unfortunate.
Jessica Stevenson says, the librarian and archivist in me would love to have gotten in those storage units. I wonder if there's any DS artifacts at the Museum of TV in NYC.
Well, Alexandra worked there. Alexandra worked at the Museum of Television once upon a time. I don't believe she does anymore. And, of course, Paley Center did that reunion where they got... I take it back, Gary. That she came to. But that wasn't a festival. That was orchestrated by the Paley Center in California. They didn't do it in New York. Strange, because Alexandra lives in New York. So that was Alexandra, Catherine, Laura, Dan Curtis, because he never attended a Dark Shadows convention. Jonathan didn't go. There were a lot of rumblings as to why Jonathan didn't go. They're all alleged. Who knows? Allegedly, maybe some sore feelings between him and Dan, which I think was Mark Dawidziak, who's a wonderful author and television historian, said that Dan regretted, that he said in his later years, he actually regretted, I think, the way things went down between him and Jonathan. He even wanted Jonathan to play Joshua in the NBC series. And Jonathan, I think, politely declined, but he thought, it would be so cool to have him as...
He would have been amazing.
Barnabas' father.
He would have been amazing.
But it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But yes, she did attend the Paley Center, which that was on YouTube. I don't think it's anymore, but it is on the DVD sets. So you can still watch that. And actually, Alexandra's very funny. She's got a wonderful sense of humor. She doesn't make a zhuzh at Johnny Carlin, but he says something and she has a wonderful retort to it. So I think it was something to the effect of, what does he say? I've had several children with several of the members on Dark Shadows, which is totally a joke. It's just Johnny Carlin being Johnny Carlin. So when they get to Alexandra, she goes, because I left the show because I was pregnant, I just want to clear up. Any, I love you, Johnny, but I just want to clear up anything, because they were close.
Really funny.
They would go to lunch together a lot. According to Johnny Carlin, they used to like to go have lunch together. So we love Alexandra, wherever you are, Alexandra, out there. Maybe she will. Maybe Catherine. Catherine seems to be magic. Catherine Lee Scott at getting people to come to these things that, so if it was ever going to happen, this would be the time for it to happen. So
separately, I can see the Facebook comments. Scott Brogan, we're so glad you're watching.
Oh, Scott. Hey, guys, on a side note, if you want
I wish I had it near me.
It's up in the bed. Scott, I'm halfway through it. We haven't forgotten you. There's just been a lot going on. Scott has written a beautiful coffee table book called Judy Garland, The Voice of MGM, or The Voice of MGM, Judy Garland. It is a wonderful insight into Judy Garland and how she came to MGM and her career through until she leaves MGM in 1950. So check out that book. It's been getting rave reviews, and I'm halfway through it, loving it. It's got gorgeous photos and, again, wonderful insight by Scott. Also visit the Judy Room. That is where Scott curates Judy Garland's legacy. So check that out. And check out the book, Judy Garland, The Voice of MGM.
Hey, Kay Renee. We're so glad to see you. We have a new person watching us for the first time, Barbara.
Hello, Barbara.
She asks, what happened to the first Willie Loomis? We get this question often.
You know, there has been, and I know James Hall, the first Willie Loomis, no relation to Sam or Grayson. I know he goes on boards. People can be very mean. The consensus is that he wasn't working out in the role, that he wasn't giving them what they wanted. I'll say this, he was a major creepola. I mean, James made your skin crawl.
His approach to the character.
Yes, which was explained to Johnny Carlin. He's from the bowels. He is white trash from the bowels of the South. And he's on the make. He's on the take. You know, Jason kind of has to reel him in. And for the, 5 episodes that James Hall did, I want to say I'm right on that, somewhere around there, he creeps the hell out of you. He's clearly going to rape or try to rape Carolyn in the drawing room of Collinwood. It will make your skin crawl. And she pulls out Uncle Roger's gun. And in her best Dolly Parton, it's kind of like, you make another move and I'm going to change you from a rooster to a hen with one shot.
Right.
And I think, I love you, Kay Renee, but I think sometimes people associate them as two different characters. And so they forget that Willie was not a nice guy. I'm not saying that Willie didn't have a bad life, but those two moments, the one with Carolyn and the one with Vicky, I mean, certainly with Carolyn, he is going to force himself on her, if not for that gun. And with Vicky, at the very least, he's going to maybe inappropriately touch her. Elizabeth,
right,
I believe, comes into the study and she puts a stop to it. So, but that's I think there was trouble with lines. Not to say there weren't other actors, but I think there was some trouble with lines and that. And so Johnny didn't even audition. Johnny Carlin was just brought in, and he said, oh God, I saw the interview recently. They brought him into the room, into the tech room, into the control room to watch. They wanted him to watch him. So he watched him just to get an idea of, because they knew they were going to be letting him go. And then Johnny came in, and Johnny brought in so many layers and so many nuances, you know. But you got to go down the line of he's extremely creepy, you know, bordering on rape to these two women. And he's going to rob a grave that even Jason McGuire says, you know, how could you sink so low to rob a stiff? Do you really want the jewels that badly? And remember it from Barnabas's point of view. When Barnabas finally came out of that room that he's been entombed in and sees the levee, whatever you call that, is that what that is? With the hook that because he's trying to get Naomi's vault opened. So it's like it's not a crowbar. No, it's a is it like a dolly? It's a hook, and he puts it through the lion's ring and a rope. And so that this will work as a way to lift up the lid of Naomi's...
A lever?
A lever?
Yeah.
No. So when Barnabas realizes, wait a minute, you were going to rob my mother's corpse. You were going to rip the jewels off of my mother's carcass. that's not going to put you in good standing with someone who's been locked in a box for 200 years.
Good point.
So, and I adore Willie and I adore Johnny Carlin.
The best actor on the show.
One of the best actors on the show. He was a mean one. Yeah, I love the way Carolyn put him in his place. Yes. She is not afraid to use Uncle Roger's gun. Although having a loaded gun with David around, unlocked,
yeah, good point.
Maybe not the best idea.
Good point.
And I think David gets a bad rap too. That's another. We talked about that in way back when. We'll talk about that again. I saw poor Jim Fife was being ripped to shreds because it was the 35th anniversary of the new show on January 13th. I remember waiting with bated breath for that. But here's what I'll say about Jim's Willie Loomis. Film is a director's medium. And Dark Shadows on NBC was a movie. And even the people who worked with Dan said he wanted it to be a movie, and that's what they were.
A movie every week.
A movie every week. Angela Lansbury, Murder, She Wrote. We made a movie every week. Film is completely a director's medium. So the Willie Loomis you see was what the director wanted.
Yeah.
They were not going for... he's on the spectrum, and he's an alcoholic. But that's clearly what they wanted. They wanted more of a Renfield, and Jim Fife played what was on the page, but I felt bad for him too. He's pitiable. He's really, really pitiable in my opinion. It's a different Willie Loomis than the one they wrote for Johnny Carlin, So, and he's a wino on top of it. So you've got those different layers there, but Jim was simply playing what he was directed to, like Lizette Anthony. She didn't know anything about Laura. She started watching Laura after she started filming some episodes. And they wanted a wanton witch. And that's what we got. This woman who really uses her sexuality. She even said, my Angelique, sexuality is magic for her. So there's part of that, if you equate sex with magic, and then she has powers beyond that as well. But that was what Dan Curtis wanted. So, got to be kind to these actors from that perspective. And we probably should get on subject because I know we're about 40 minutes into the episode already. Is there anything we missed? Is there anything I want to go through? Is there anything?
Nope, we caught everything.
Comments or anything?
M. Lady N, she said she loves the Jason storyline.
Oh, the Jason storyline is great, and Dennis Patrick is amazing in it. He was wonderful. Again, nuanced. Because even you see Jason has a love for Willie. Either as like a kid brother or a son. He's taken him under his wing. And he really, in his own way, is kind of sort of trying to look out for Willie. And then we see how Willie reacts when Jason dies, even though, finally he's going to get it. He's going to get his comeuppance. But he was so good, you love to hate him, that you're always sorry to see him go, So there's that aspect of it. And when he comes back as Paul Stoddard, totally different. Not as fun as Jason Maguire, but pitiable. Very, very pitiable as Jason Maguire. So, as Paul Stoddard. So, now, this is the BarnaBEST. That's what we all came here to discuss tonight. And obviously, there's almost 5 years worth. And I jotted some notes. So, I'm
reading the Facebook comments. That's why I'm looking down. So
yes, we're not. Yeah, John is not being rude. He's not playing a game or on Grindr.
What's Grindr?
Yeah, try that again with feeling, John.
It's a coffee application.
Yes, it's a virtual coffee application. That's right. So I want to know your ideas of the BarnaBEST. Mrs. Johnson. Here, I'm going to digress. Guys, go on and check out some of the pages. Juliana McCarthy, who played a lovely Mrs. Johnson, very different than Clarice's, but all her own. She was so lovable and then delicious as Abigail.
So good.
So good. She has suffered a series of strokes. She's
And
95 years old.
she's indigent, and they need money. So there's a GoFundMe
The
up.
family has started a GoFundMe. I believe it's on several pages. So check that out. If you know,
I'll put a link to that GoFundMe in these comments as well.
and she would come to the festivals, and she was a hoot and a fan of the original show. Just to digress, before we get back on the subject at hand, she said, was this 1992, I believe, a Halloween festival in California. And she said, I got the call, and my daughter grew up watching the show. All of her friends would come over, and we'd hear, woo, 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 and we'd all flock to the television set. So should I get a call from my agent? They want me to audition for Dark Shadows. And her daughter went, oh, get it. And Juliana said, all right, I'll do my best. So she was a fan of the show. And she mentioned she was a huge fan of horror films and even kung fu movies. And a lovely lady, and would come and be so generous to fans at festivals. So keep her in your hearts and your prayers, and see if you can find the GoFundMe. Maybe donate a little something to help her out, because she's not in a good way these days. So now the BarnaBEST, the topic of tonight's show, we hope. I want your ideas on what you consider are these great moments. A lot of mine are from 1967 and 1795. That's not to say there weren't good ones later on in the show, because there certainly were, but a lot of mine are. So share yours with us. John will look in the comments. Just stand out moments. I had to make some notes here as I was going through. I think one of my favorites in 1967 is when he's searching for David, when he's sure that David is somewhere and knows the secret of the mausoleum, pardon me, and runs into the Eagle Hill Cemetery groundskeeper, and just watching him with this poor old man who I loved. I was so sorry to see him go.
And isn't there an interesting story why he went?
It was the picket lines.
Yeah,
it was the strike. He wouldn't cross.
He wouldn't cross the picket line.
He wouldn't cross the picket lines, so Dan replaced him. And you got to feel bad for the new guy who came in. He tried, but that first guy, Daniel Keyes, is his name. Daniel Keyes. But that scene, and he was talking that kind of mumbling way, like this. What are you doing? Is this part? Barnabas Collins is the one who went to, and Jonathan, Barnabas is just getting more and more, did you hear voices or didn't you? Voices coming from the mausoleum. And I love it because he almost gives himself away. And it's a brilliant moment, brilliantly written, and the way Jonathan, how do you know so much about Sarah Collins? Because I'm a Collins. This close for the schmuck to say, because I'm her brother. And I love the way he gets scared when, he notices the ring and the cane. He's like, the ring and the cane are the same ones from the portrait at Collinwood. And he tries to hide them under his cape.
Right.
That's one of my favorite moments. And someone has distilled that on YouTube. I think it's called, is it Barnabas Gets Crotchety, or Barnabas Gets Cranky, or Barnabas is PO'd. It's something like that. Just that scene. I love that scene between him and the keeper of Eagle Hill Cemetery. It's delicious. It's great.
We're getting a lot of BarnaBEST comments.
All right, we want them.
So here's Jessica Stevenson. One of the BarnaBEST, when he first arrives at Collinwood and meets everyone. Rewatching it now, thinking about Frid's commentary about he played the lie. Oof.
Yeah, Jessica, it's true. I mean, we got the initial. You have the initial meeting with Elizabeth. So there's that, and Vicky, and that's wonderful. And Jonathan didn't like the way he played that, and he had a chance to correct it. But when he enters the house and we only see him from the back, And he turns around from the portrait, and there they are, both in profile. Oh, madam, you may tell her that it's Barnabas Collins. And he does that kind of, that triumphant look, which to me, I've said this in previous shows, it's, Dad, you son of a bitch, you locked me up, you thought that I was, and here I am. And it's like he's going to claim, what's rightfully yours. I liked that. Jonathan thought it was played all wrong. He felt that it should have been played with a great deal of fear and trepidation. And, here I'm telling them from England. I don't even know if England even exists anymore. I've been in the box so long. Although I think there was some time in there for Barnabas to get up as much as he could on current events. But in the movie, in House of Dark Shadows, he plays it. It's almost like he went back, and maybe they even let him watch some of those early episodes. Who knows? You see that he doesn't want to look up. When Elizabeth says, the resemblance is uncanny, he keeps looking down at the floor and trying to play it off. He really is upset that the portrait is even there. Meanwhile, this is his entree into the house,
Right.
Because he resembles the portrait, but yet he's playing it the way he wanted to originally on the series. But I love, the scene with Joan. He's so gracious, and how can you not instantly fall in love with him? I mean, that's the thing. Yes. You want to add your 2 cents? Which baby is it? Squeezy, who is the Dark Shadows fan of the 3 cats. She likes to sit on my tummy and watch it when I'm watching it on my laptop.
Jessica has a second BarnaBEST. When he bricks Trask up in the old basement in 1795.
That's on my list, Jessica. That's on my list. And that when he gets him down there and everything leading up to that point, how he gets him there, all the wonderful stuff with the hand and the ring and the mirror smashing in Trask's, little one bedroom house that he lives in. Which actually, Jerry Lacey said glass went into his face.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He said some of it splintered and actually did, and you can't stop.
God bless him. Oh my
God.
God.
Luckily he wasn't severely hurt, but some of that shattered in his direction. But I love when he looks at the confession and says, a trifle incoherent, but it will suffice, and he's like, can I go? Can I go? And he's like, soon, very soon. And it's, well, why can't I go now? Because your final resting place hasn't been finished yet. And he throws him up against the wall. You wanted Victoria Winters to die. Oh my God, it's great. So that's on my list. The confrontation with Trask. And last night I was watching Ben and Roy Finnis. And it's much more, and there's some comedy in their scene. There's some comedy in their scene with Ben Loomis, and when he's having him write, to the Honorable Judge Isaiah Braithwaite, and Roy he's crying and he's going, to the Honorable Judge Isaiah Braithwaite, and it's actually kind of funny. So they're playing up the comedy of the situation as well.
Barbara has a BarnaBEST. I've been watching DS on Tubi. One of mine is 1840 when he meets old Ben.
Barbara, you mean when Julia goes to the mausoleum and Ben has to play mediator? Because it's the Barnabas that's been trapped all those years. Barnabas from the main time band has not made his way back. That is a wonderful scene. And Thayer David, of course. Thayer is... he just breaks your heart. And when he sees him, when he realizes that it's Ben, and how long, and he has to explain to him, your father's dead, Mr. Joshua's been dead all these years, is there anyone left, just the boy, and he's, Daniel, he's on his way out, and he says to him, Jonathan, with great pity, he said, you must be mad, old man. the two of them had such great chemistry. Um, it's definitely a BarnaBEST. It's definitely a BarnaBEST.
Bob Pierce's BarnaBEST is later 67 when Barnabas is looking out the window of the old house. It's really creepy and scary.
And they do that several times. I was in doing some research for this with David, with Maggie as well as with David, because he either wants to kill Maggie or David, almost concurrently. And the way they would light up, they'd have that wonderful kind of yellow-green light under his face, and with Lascalzo's makeup. I think they do it with Trask as well. I'm pretty sure they do it when he's holding the candle. He goes over to is that kind of a bay window?
Yep.
Those are wonderful moments. Sleep well tonight, David. Those are really great moments. And again, it's all being done.
Mm-hmm.
It's cutting edge for the time, and people would make fun of it now, but I think it still holds up.
Gary Swafford says, I think a highlight of Jonathan and Louis' work on DS is when they have their father-son angst-ridden realization of Barnabas's vampirism in the old house basement. They're both terrific.
Gary, I was watching that last night at bedtime.
I can attest he was.
Yes, Joshua discovers Barnabas. And thank God for Dark Shadows fans unite, because whoever's doing that, they've put up various versions of each storyline, and each time they put a little bit more up. I mean, we have the coffin set here and Amazon Prime, but those help quite a bit. And watching that scene as a whole, from when Joshua discovers him, and when he's trying to understand what happens, and Jonathan goes up against the wall, it's almost like he wants to bang his head into the brick wall. And he turns around and he says, why? Because I am a vampire. And it's the first time he utters the word. Laura is the first person to say it, which is another one of my BarnaBEST scenes. But you're right, the way he and Louis play that scene as a father and son, and this is where Joshua it happens a little bit before this, but he's starting to break.
Mm.
We see that he does have a heart, and he does have a soul, and how frustrated he is. And this is something where a lot of us in the LGBTQ community tap into it, because he doesn't want his father to find out. He doesn't want his family to find out. He's become this thing that he's ashamed of. And certainly back in 1967, queer folk, particularly guys, were tapping into this and saying, holy, whoop, watch out, baby girl. Definitely, I mean, the disenfranchised as a whole, but particularly for the, you're okay, baby. You're okay, sweetheart.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
She gets excited about Dark Shadows too. It's beautifully played. It's beautifully written. And saying there's no way for me to die. I mean, we all know there is. But it's just so. And then when he goes to touch him, he goes to hug him.
Yeah.
And don't touch me. Don't touch me. I'm not your son. And that was part of what I was watching yesterday afternoon, too. That episode, it's just before they brick up the Reverend Trask, when Joshua discovers Barnabas. And I like the fact that in the new series, he says, what you see before you now is not your son. I am what Angelique made me. I'm a beast. I'm this, I'm that. And he puts down his rifle, because he says, shoot if you must. It won't do any good.
Right.
And he puts down his rifle and says, I'm going to lose it now talking about it. He says, Barnabas, and he puts his arms out and they embrace, which doesn't happen in the original series. And there's no right way, but I do like that they do that in the 1991 series. for anyone who was ever afraid of telling their family, this is what I am, and someone and pushing you away, you really latch on to that. And it's played very well in both, because along with Joshua, Gary, I believe it was, who brought that up, discovering him when everything is been rectified. And Forbes has made, which is delicious too, another BarnaBEST, when he confronts him at the Eagle, that Frid plays that scene to the hilt when he smashes all the glasses with his cane. You know, my mother is dead because of you. And Joel is so great in it, you know, and I'll make you wait and wonder. And they don't use chroma key. I love the fact that they don't use chroma key. They just go in on a close-up of Joel's face, and then they pull back, and Barnabas isn't there anymore. Because again, it's leaving it to the viewer's imagination that Barnabas just evaporated in front of his eyes. Coming back to Joshua, in those final moments of 1795, and he says, you're going to shoot me. You've got the silver bullets, and I can't do it. And I've never been known for showing emotion. And he says, please, don't do it now. Please don't do it now. But he said, you must free Victoria Winters. And Joshua says, I can't. He says, well, you have to. You've got to use your prestige, do everything you can. Even when Barnabas finds out, when Joshua finds out in that initial scene that Angelique is the one responsible, he says, I will get Victoria Winters freed. But back to those final moments, and free Ben. Please free Ben. And
that's my favorite.
And he, for a minute, he's like, you know, it's almost like he's saying, what are you asking me? You know, this person was put in my care because he was a criminal. But he says, everything you ask, I will do. And that's important to remember. But you hear the rooster crow, and he goes to the door, and he looks at Joshua. He gives him a long stare. This is the end of my family, and this is the last time I'm ever going to see you. Oh my God. The two of them. They play, and again, the writers don't get enough credit. And I forget who wrote that episode. I don't know if that was one of Sam's. It may very well have been one of Sam's episodes, because he and Gordon were writing Fast and Furious at that point. So, but it's just the way Frid looks at him. Like, I want to remember you, because I'm never going to see you again. You know, my mother is dead. My sister is dead. My uncle is dead. The woman I love jumped off it. She's dead. And, yeah, it's incredible.
Christiana has a BarnaBEST. How about the first color episode where Barnabas looks down in shame? Oh no, when the kidnapped Maggie wanders into the blue whale. It kills me every time.
It's, you know what? It's a landmark episode because it is the first color episode, although we do get it in black and white the day before. I wouldn't say shame. It's, oh shit, the jig is up. Because,
oh shit.
Oh shit. The eagle has landed. You know, yeah, he's the look of horror on his face because Julia has, and the scene that follows it where he goes to Collinwood and confronts Julia. You know, you've betrayed me. You know, one of 112 times that Frid had to say that on the show. We need a t-shirt that says you betrayed me. That scene with Julia, and I'll have to deal with her myself. And then the phone, and you will go first. And the phone starts to ring, and she's trying to get to the other side of the room. And you know, in one fell swoop, he could take her out if he wanted to, but he lets her pick up the phone. That's a really great moment between Jonathan and Grant. But just the fear, the utter fear in Frid's face when Maggie shows up. That's and again, there's so many of those. He's getting to play all kinds of colors. He can be on the brink of wanting to kill Maggie Evans or David. And then somehow Sarah comes into the picture, either because the candles start to flicker and we hear the flute playing, or because Julia brings Sarah up and there's this change in demeanor. And he's so upset that she won't appear to him. You know, she's appeared to Willie and to Maggie and to David. Why won't she appear to me? I'm her brother. Doesn't she know how much I love her? That happens at least twice. And you have to feel sorry for him. You totally have to feel sorry for him.
K. Renee Caps has a BarnaBEST. I really loved it when Barnabas walks into the old house and claims he's come home.
Yes. Yeah. We'd be remiss, Renee, that's without you're going back to those first couple of episodes and those monologues and how brilliantly they were written. It's interesting because I don't know if the writers were quite all on the same page, just because he's looking up at the portrait of Josette, and on the one hand, and again, you get that sense of pity. You know, I was a Collins. Why didn't you help me? You know, where were you when I was turned into something even my own father loathed, which is different from what happens later on. Because a lot of this stuff happens in reverse. No one knew the show was gonna where the show was gonna go. That's the great thing about that Barnabas doll they made. We have one of those. Not the bobblehead, the statue. And you press the button and it's Frid delivering them out. Is it up there? Whoop, careful.
Whoops, sorry.
There he is. Hang on. We've got it on demand. Here you go. If for anybody, I don't know if they still make these or not. I think we have a spare one, actually. I think we bought two at the time. Let's see.
I was caught. Why didn't you protect me? Where were you when I was turned into something that even my own father loved? If his ghost is here with yours, tell him I've come home. I claim this house as mine. And whatever power you or he may have is ended. I am free now and alive. Chains with which he bound me are broken. And I've returned to live the life I never had. Whatever that may turn out to be.
I hope. I don't know if you guys could hear that or not. If it came through on the...
Yes, it came through because the transcript.
Got it. And it's cool that MPI put that whole thing on there. The whole monologue is there, but absolutely. And the scene, Renee, preceding that with David. Now, you have to realize something. That episode is credited to Ron Sproat. Joe Caldwell actually wrote it. And I think what they were doing was to get him in on spec. So he was probably friends with Ron. And so they probably said, well, I have a friend. And because Joe Caldwell's favorite moment was the interaction between David and Barnabas. And in particular, you know, I want to take you to that room at the top of the stairs, in the attic, in the hidden part of the attic. And we can watch the sunrise. And again, from being very happy and he gets this look on his face, and he very, very lightly says, sunrise. And Joe Caldwell was very proud of writing that. He said it was one of my most proudest moments on the show, was writing that scene. And again, even though David, when the ocean, when the sun, when the river, when the sun comes over the ocean, he still gets it back on track. And he and Frid's interaction is great. It's great. Because early on, he's very fond of David, which makes it a lot of those things with I've got a list of those here. A lot of those moments with David, when he catches him in the coffin room.
Right.
Oh my! I remember seeing that on New Jersey Network after we moved to Long Island, and where I was watching the show on New Jersey Network, where the show would often be preempted for a local news station, wouldn't always be there. And David getting down, and the coffin lid slamming, and woo, it's scary, really scary, especially when he gets him in his arms. Go, what is he going to do to this poor kid? And then Julia comes in upstairs and saves the day. She catches Barnabas off guard. But just the way he yells for him, go back and watch it. He's got a ire and a growl to his voice like an animal as he chases David up the stairs back to the main foyer of the old house. That's a goodie. That's a real good goodie. It's one of my favorites.
Dana Gregory has a BarnaBEST. That scene at the Eagle with Forbes is one of my BarnaBEST.
Right. That's what I was saying when he confronts him about Naomi's death. Yeah. Yeah. And the way he smashes the glasses with the cane.
She says also the scene where he says, Abigail, what are you doing here? Just before she dies of fright.
Another, and him and Clarice, the chemistry, and so beautifully written. I wish we had the writers. We're going to be working on that as well. Normally, I would have done more in-depth research for this, but the whole scene and the comedy, they give him a little bit of comedy. How does she put it to him? Don't touch me, devil. And he starts laughing and says, why does the devil always want to touch you? It's really, I'm sure what does he say? I'm sure you're as wrong about him as you are Victoria Winters. Great scene. Great scene.
Renee says, the Leviathan storyline gets trashed a lot, and I admit I take a swing at it now and then. However, Frid has some great moments with the returning evil persona.
Who said that?
K. Renee.
K. Renee, yes. Renee, you're right. I will take 100, 200 Leviathan storylines over the Adam storyline. And that's not to diss Robert Rodin. I met him. I sat at his table twice at the banquet, at the festivals. A sweetheart, a bigger marshmallow you never met. But the Leviathan storyline, to me, is much more enjoyable. Even though I want to kill the kid, Alexander. Not Michael. Michael is great. Michael Maitland was a really good actor. Alexander, I always say this, now we know why some animals eat their young. And he's recently surfaced, by the way, and I think has gotten involved with one of the fans because somebody posted a picture. Somehow he's come to the forefront. So no disrespect to him, but as the character. But yes, when he comes back, and it's interesting. That was the complaint they got from the viewers. You're talking about that evil side of him and the gray streaks, even in his bangs, which everyone said, we wonder why they had to do that. Viewers were not happy that he was turning, the way he was turning. And that's when they had to bring Angelique into it and start to have him revolt against the Leviathans. Because they wanted their anti-hero back. They wanted the reluctant vampire back. But you're right. He has some delicious moments. Another one that breaks my heart, when Jeb sets the bat loose on him and he wakes up in front of the Leviathan altar and he doesn't quite sure know where he is, and he puts his hand up to his neck and he screams and he lets out this cry, and you see the fangs. He's got his fangs in his mouth. It's a great moment when he realizes he's all this time, other than 1897, that he's a vampire again. I love the moment with Marcia Mason, when she's one of the doxies. And Marcia Mason in an interview said, oh my God, that video must be long gone, or at least I hope it is. as dream vampire Audrey, she comes into the old house. She did her own makeup and her hair. Well, you got to look like a vampire. So she said to the interviewer, I had to tease my hair, thinking, okay, this is what a vampire would look like. And I think she has the fingernail fangs because they were, she has the Lee press on. She's got her mouth open, like that. But she was a good sport about it. But yes, there's some really good stuff when he meets Angelique. When he comes into the bedroom and says, your husband is one of them. He's one of the Leviathans. That's another really great moment with him and Laura. And I was going to go. We were talking about 1795, the Barnabas when he wakes up. When Ben, and I love that when Ben, when he wakes up, you'll be there, and he closes. He rings down the ringer in the lion's mouth and traps her in the room. And Barnabas wakes up, and that whole confrontation. I was in that coffin because I was dead. And this is where poetic justice reigns supreme, because he remembers the curse. Now I know why you were afraid to come here tonight, because according to the curse, anyone who loves me must die. Mm. Or were you always lying when you told me that you love me? Oh, I love that moment. I love that moment.
We have a new person watching us. They say, Barnabas Paul at the Blue Whale, most precious possession. It's a highlight in the series.
Yes. Yeah, yes, I agree with you. I don't know you anything. Sit down, Mr. Stoddard. And what do you want from me? No more than is due. It's because Barnabas is a meanie. I mean, he really is, as Renee pointed out, getting him back to that kind of evil, because there's not really, early on, there's the reluctancy, that he plays that sadness. I don't think we get quite as much. But again, after he realizes he's a vampire and he wants Maggie, and he kind of has this kind of Jekyll and Hyde moment. One moment he's saying, they've turned me into this animal again, and I will not harm Maggie. And then we get one of those famous Dark Shadows voiceovers, but I must have blood. And he gets a glint in his eye and says, yes, Maggie can be mine at last. It's another great moment in the Leviathan storyline. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Jessica writes, when Julia catches Barnabas in her room, I've been waiting to meet you, Barnabas Collins, for a long time. It's a great Julia moment, but it's also great for Barnabas as well.
Absolutely. Classic. I mean, if we ever do a, milestone moment show, which we should, talk about a milestone and everything leading up to that. I mean, the striking of the deal, Jessica, where he's finally going to meet with her. And, he apologizes, and there's all this, I told you, I have some information about Barnabas Collins that you don't know about. And he finally agrees to meet with her. Shall we say tomorrow morning? I'm afraid I'll be, busy. Tomorrow afternoon, then. I'm afraid I'll be busy all day. I understand. Completely. Just the tee up to all of that. Until tomorrow, I can't wait, or whatever it is. And she walks over to the portrait. I can't wait for tomorrow, and I'm sure you can't either. Because she knows. She knows. He's going to be sly about this whole thing. Because when she comes with the compact, and she's testing him. She's really, but from day one, she's testing him. So yeah, the scene in the bedroom, and then again, the idea that, why would I have put myself in deliberate danger if I didn't think I could help you? And that's when he starts to, you begin to intrigue me, doctor. You begin to intrigue me very much. It's very well played. And then going back to the house, there were the following. I think it's the following episode. Well, no, they pick it up, and then she goes back to the old house with him. I have a great many questions for you, but your room at Collinwood was not the place to do it. And poor Willie, poor Willie, because he kind of has an idea that this isn't going to end well.
Oh boy,
this isn't going to end well.
Are you gonna get?
And of course, the fly. That's the infamous. I think that's the first time
this person just wrote that, Barbara. I like the one with the fly in his forehead talking to Julia.
That's the scene.
Frid played it so classy.
That is the scene, Barbara. Yeah, when she first comes back to the old house, just before he tells her he's going to kill her, and then she springs forth the information about Maggie Evans.
Right.
And the look of horror on Frid's face, on Barnabas's face. Maggie Evans is dead. Is she? And he pulls away. She's alive. Good moment. Good stuff.
Collins Port 4099 says, I like the domestic scenes, like when he gets annoyed with David for throwing darts in the drawing room.
We don't get too many domestic scenes, do we? Collins Port 4099. We don't get too many domestic scenes.
And we have gotten many comments on how much people love the monologue and the doll.
Oh, good. I don't know if they're still available or not. Go to MPI. We've been trying to get them to make a real music box. And even if it couldn't have a real musical movement in it, they could do the same thing they did with that. It could have a little electronic button, or that when you open the lid, but just a sturdier music box with actual overlay on it rather than some painted, from 1970 job. They need to give us a real one. Well, I'm not going to talk about that tonight. That's another episode.
Gary wants to go on the record saying, I have to say the Leviathan storyline is my least favorite, and I don't like the vicious Barnabas. I'm probably in the minority.
Gary, you're not in the minority. No, a lot of people do not like the storyline. I know what Renee was saying, just devil's advocate, in that he's getting that kind of mean, and that might have been Curtis's doing. Because Curtis always wanted him to be the marauder. So, but then of course we know that the ratings dropped. So I remember when they were coming out on VHS and getting to that storyline and thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get through this? I liked it. I actually liked it. My godmother watched it with me because she had already graduated high school and was working at ABC, funny enough. She was working at ABC in 1970 in the programming department. She never got to meet any of the Dark Shadows people. She met Jack Klugman several times and
said he was very nice.
Very sweet. What you saw on TV was exactly what you got. But she was watching it with me and she said, why do people not like this storyline? I kind of like this. So you're not in the minority on that. A lot of people do not like it. Also because Jeb is so obnoxious till he finally has a change of heart. There's a moment in the Leviathan storyline, I'm pretty sure, where Collins Port 4099, I think it's where I can't remember the chain of events, but someone comes into the old house and they say, Barnabas, we have a problem. And he goes, oh, now what? And it really comes off as like, oh, Jesus Christ. Now it's one of Frid's most human. Talk about a domestic moment like, oh, Jesus Christ. Now, really, what? No, I can't. And it's in the Leviathan storyline. If anybody can remember what it is, put it in the comments. But it's just his reaction is, enough already. Someone get the steak.
Literally. What were some of your other BarnaBESTs?
My BarnaBESTs. Wonderful scene. And Anthony George grows on you. Anthony George grows on you, even though we know Mitch will always be Burke Devlin. More and more as I've been watching 1967 over, which Anthony is a huge part of. It's when Vicky finds the house, Seaview, and they're going to go see it. And, Burke is planning a romantic night. And Barnabas comes in. And now it's, and Barnabas can come with us, and it's, sure, there's nothing I'd like more than for the three of us to look at the house by moonlight. It's a scene in the drawing room when they're waiting for Vicky, and Burke, being a modern man, is getting pissed off that she's taking so long to put on a new dress and a sweater. And he goes, you really surprise me, how easily annoyed you are. I guess that's what separates you from the men who, and he's about to give himself away. The men who used to live in these parts, hundreds of years ago. There's a lot of great tension between him and Mitch. I keep saying Mitch. Anthony.
Right.
In that scene between him and Burke. And I love the fact that Barnabas is thoughtfully kind of looking at the fire or out the window. And Mitch is, oh my God, I did it again. Burke is reading the Collinsport newspaper, and they keep giving each other looks, without the other one knowing it. They kind of keep giving each other dirty looks. It's a very well played scene. And over Burke's annoyance. And then Vicky comes in and she goes, shall we go? And he says, you look lovely, my dear. And I might add, well worth waiting for. Really sticking it to Burke. And Vicky has no idea. She's just flattered. She's all blushing and whatever. And you see the look on Burke's face. That's another great moment. It's it's on my list. It's on my list here.
Jessica has another one. When Barnabas bites Carolyn while he's an old man, Nancy was so tiny with Jonathan looming over her all menacing-like.
I was thinking about that, Jessica, too. I mean, I've said this, and I think people disagree with me. Carolyn discovering the coffin. Again, we get the bang of the lid, which is a callback to David.
Yep.
And we think it's Barnabas and it's Julia. I remember seeing this on New Jersey Network the first time. It scared the crap out of me. Just go now before it's too late. It's already too late. And him coming down the stairs. Mm. And the way he plays that scene, you may scream all you want, but no one will hear you. I wouldn't do anything to her. I would do anything to hurt my own flesh and blood. And when he bears the fangs, oh my God. To me, that is the scariest moment in Dark Shadows. And people can fight me on it, but they won't win. But it's classic. It is a BarnaBEST. And then the reveal, which is a kinescope the next day, when he comes back, and we're not quite sure what's going to happen. But we see his feet slowly walking to Josette's room. And the camera reveals him all peachy-faced and rejuvenated by Carolyn's young blood. Flip side of that is, in the 91 series, he doesn't realize who he's attacking. Carolyn comes in, and it's Willie who comes in as he's, feasting on her. And starts crying and says, Barnabas, no, what did you do? And then he looks down and looks up, and Ben lets out that same primal cry that Jonathan lets out when he realizes he's a vampire again, because he goes, it's like, what did I do? He didn't mean. Whereas Frid's Barnabas, it's deliberate. She's here, she's the one. And so that's what makes, again, that's giving Dan Curtis the evil Barnabas that he wanted. Whereas Ben Cross is truly upset. His Barnabas is truly upset that he did that. Even though he killed Daphne. Let's totally forget that. squirted blood all over her nightgown. I think that's one of the most ridiculous moments in the new Dark Shadows, all that corn syrup. You know, beautiful Rebecca Stab with all of this, you know. How many other people did he bite? You know, where there's like, you know, you got Michael Cavanaugh, Sheriff Patterson saying, all that blood, and where did it go?
All that
You
blood.
know, and yet when he kills Daphne, it's all over the place. You know.
Funny.
Yeah. Could hear, imagine Paul Lynde, you know, you're walking into that scene saying, Mrs. Johnson isn't going to want to clean up that. Oh my God.
Oh,
but yes,
Lord.
yeah, that's good stuff. And when he's menacing Julia with the spirit of Woodard, and she comes to confront him at the house, and he hides Carolyn in the anteroom, and Carolyn's listening and realizes he's making fun of her. And then she comes out and says, Barnabas, that was cruel. She really is in love with you.
Right.
Carolyn, you're tired. You're tired. And that's that whole where he starts playing Julia like a fiddle and flirting with her. That's another goodie. That's another real goodie. What else have I got here? Anyone else, please join in. Oh, Barnabas puts Julia in her place. She wants to know why he's going up to Collinwood. And he lapses into, this is another scene that someone distilled onto YouTube. You know, you are a meddlesome and domineering woman. You don't own me. You don't give me orders. You don't tell me what to do. You know, if the modern man is willing to put up with your kind of woman, that's his problem. But I will have none of it. Have I made my... Yes, I believe you made your point. That's a great... That's one of my favorites. That's one of my favorites. You know, Julia wanting to case him, and yeah, that's definitely another one of my favorites. You know, you're a meddlesome and domineering woman. If the modern man is willing to put up with you, that's his problem, but I will have none of it. It's goody. It's a goody. What else have I got here? Oh, yes. Yes. Now, I just cited the scariest moment on Dark Shadows as old Barnabas biting Carolyn. I think the best moment, and it was Sam Hall in 1897, is when Barnabas and Angelique meet for the first time in how many episodes and in how long? In the tower room. That scene is the best written scene. The way he and Lara play it. It goes through every emotion. It's brilliant. And there's a moment where, because Crazy Jenny's cot is in there, and he sits on it, and Lara puts her arms around him, and he kind of, he recoils a little, you know, because she puts his head right up to her, up to his, and you see this kind of look on his face, like, please don't do this. But when they start sparring with each other, you know, and he says, who put the curse on me? For a reason, because I could not love you. And she says, well, perhaps in this time you will learn to love me. You know, we're both strangers here in a foreign century. And if you love me, I can help you. And she wants to help him. She genuinely wants. And this is where I began to, early on, you love to hate Angelique. This is where, to me, you truly start to love Angelique. And this is a great debate, because there are people who will find golden kernels in all of Angelique's poo-poo early on. And I don't go along with that. Even though I love the character, I don't find the Angelique of 1795 pitiable. Even though she loves him, there's something distorted about that love. But in 1897, and that moment in the tower room, and she's also trying to protect him, and she's saying, don't you realize you've already changed history by being here? You've already upset things. How do you think you're going to help David? And then she takes him to the window. And I love the chroma key effect. I want you to look. This is the last day in the past. And you see the coffin and those wonderful candelabrum. And the hooded figure goes and has the stake and the hammer. And it's a great scene. I cite that as the most, certainly twosome, best scene written on Dark Shadows. And again, no chroma key. He grabs her. Who's going to put the stake in my heart? Who? And obviously she's ducked out of the frame, and they pull away, and he's alone in the room again. But that's one of my all-time favorite BarnaBESTs. That's a BarnaBEST in my estimation anyway. So I like that. I like that one a lot.
Siri says, love when Julia has to remind Barnabas in close-up to choke her by pulling on his hand. It's priceless.
I also like the fact that I think in the same thing you're talking about, when they come back from the commercial break and he's let go, as she goes, is it necessary for you to constantly threaten me? She's rubbing her throat. And Frid had those huge hands. Roger Davis has said, even when he puts his hand on my throat in House of Dark Shadows, he had hands like clubs. He had these big, big hands. And I think Grayson made a joke about that. How many times did he strangle me? She actually had to teach a day player how to strangle her because the guy actually started to do it. He literally, one of the zombies or one of the whoever, it's on a recorded interview with Grayson. She said, he literally started to choke me. And she said, you're hurting me. He said, well, I'm supposed to. She said, we're acting. So you just put your hand on my throat and you let me do the rest. And she ran into this guy at a restaurant. He was a waiter at the time, looking for his next job. And he said, don't you remember me, Miss Hall? You taught me how to strangle people. So she didn't have to do that with Jonathan.
M. Lady N says, Barnabas biting Carolyn was a painful thing for me. He had become the family protector, then turns on one of the people who should be shielded from his infliction.
It's interesting. It's an interesting assessment. I mean, he was definitely protective of the Collins name, and he loves Elizabeth. Clearly, he has a respect for Elizabeth because she has maintained what his father built. So, but I think there's that kind of juxtaposition of also that he's rabid. Remember this. I mean, I get upset when people go after Barnabas because I go, remember, he was bitten by a rabid animal. So it's created this thing in his chemistry that makes him, for lack of a better, bipolar. When he has these fits, it's because this rabid thing is bubbling up in his blood, and he acts like a rabid animal would. But he didn't ask to be that way, right? He didn't ask for that.
Oh, Gary just asked, what is John's favorite Barnabas scene?
Go for it. Yeah, because I know I get diarrhea of the mouth up here.
I would say this is going to be a peculiar one, and we haven't talked about it tonight. But in 1968, when Barnabas confronts Cassandra, and
well, you mean when he invites her over to the house?
Yeah,
and calls her Angelique.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great scene when he invites her over to the old house
and knows that she's Angelique. Yeah,
and she's why do you keep calling me that?
I got your number, sister.
You won't tell Roger because if you do, we'll find out your papers aren't quite in order.
Oh, we have another new listener, new watcher. The first ever episode of DS.
Well, first of all, hello, Jennifer Lynn. Thank you for joining us.
Jennifer Lynn, 73. The first ever episode of DS that I watched in the early 80s was the one where David has the nightmare about Barnabas. I was hooked from that moment on.
Jennifer, it's funny that you mentioned that. I was watching the preamble to that when it goes to it's kinescope. I wish they would locate the color version, but it's actually really creepy and black on the kinescope, where he has the dream and he sees Barnabas coming out of the mausoleum, and you see David getting smaller and Barnabas getting bigger till they cut to the mouth, and it's the fangs, and it's like David's going to be swallowed up by the fangs. We were watching that last night.
Exactly.
And Burke and Vicky run into the room. That's great. And then, of course, the one where we have half kinescope and then we have it in color. And Julia's cousin It. I noticed this a couple of weeks ago.
How so?
Well, it's her stand-in. Because the face is covered up. She has the medallion out. Because he's going to become scared of the medallion. But the Grayson wig is actually, even though it's covered up, it's coming down this way. And I'm like, who is she, cousin It? It's a little bit ridiculous, see, because they've got this black mask on her face. But you can see the wig is down in a way that it's almost like, cousin It Julia.
How funny.
But yes, and the geometric design in the coffin room, that Cy Thomasoff with all the red lights behind it. It's a goodie. It's another one I caught on New Jersey Network as a little boy.
They made Angelique vulnerable and sympathetic at times in '68. Bob Pierce says this. Bob Pierce also wants to go on record for how much he despises the Quentin storyline.
Now, do you despise?
He'll take the Leviathan storyline over Quentin.
Bob, do you mean like the tee up to 1897? Because those tee ups are really long. I mean, when they do it with Gerard, it's unbearable. It's like, oh my! And plus, it doesn't make sense. They're too old. The kids are too old to be doing that in the playroom. But I agree. As ominous as and wonderful David Selby was, the tee up, the meandering to get into the past is just a little bit too long. So I'm wondering if that's what you're talking about.
Trying to see if he commented.
Angelique being sympathetic in '68, kind of. I still feel you don't really feel for her until 1897.
Bob says peak DS for me is pre-insufferable Quentin, 67 and 68. So he doesn't like Quentin at all.
Peak DS for me is pre. Oh, so you're not a Quentin fan. Okay. Each to his own. I said this many times. I've said when we first meet Quentin, he's a douchebag. I mean, he is a total... And then all of a sudden, he becomes likable. He starts to go... We start to see the layers. And he's handsome. I mean, I can't say I didn't have a crush on David Selby. More on Joel Crothers, but definitely... But then you start to see he's the black sheep of the family, and then he and Barnabas team up, but it takes a while. It definitely takes a while before we get there. So I know what you mean about that. Yeah, absolutely. Coming back to Angelique and Barnabas, one of the things that pisses me off, again, for not Laura, and I wish Lamar was here anyway, but when she sets Sarah up to die, oh, I can cure her. And I'll do it if you'll marry me. And then he realizes, oh my God, she's going to make me make good on the promise. And he says to her flat out, don't you understand? I haven't stopped loving Josette. And he says to her again, after he promises to keep his promise of marrying her, you have to realize, I'll never stop loving her. I'll never stop feeling the way I do about her. And this, to me, is what makes Angelique even more wrong. He was on the level. He leveled with her and said, I'm never going to stop loving her. So that, to me, just makes Angelique even more evil. I've been saving that for the Angelique evening. We'll come back to it again, but that's just my he was up front. He was up front and honest with her about it. It's a beautifully played scene between Jonathan and Laura. But he says to her, I'm never going to stop loving her. So,
Bob says, no, it's when Quentin screams, get out, and more frequently.
okay.
And then Jessica asks the question, Bob, do you mean parallel time when he screams at Maggie? He didn't do much after 1897.
You know, Jessica, just from my perspective, 1970 parallel time, first of all, with Barnabas gone, and this is not to denigrate Lamar or David or whatever, when he's gone for too long, it starts to lag. And I believe Darren Gross pointed this out. It's a shame that they couldn't have done some pre-filming of Frid locked in the coffin telling Will the story. That might have made it a little bit more bearable. So I go along with that. If they could have done some pre-filming, because he was busy filming House of Dark Shadows. But except for Elizabeth, that family in parallel time is totally unlikable.
Mm.
I love Paula Lawrence. I love Paula Lawrence as Aunt Hannah. She was delicious. But there is no one likable in that storyline. Maggie is a wimp. It's the only time, and I like Maggie Evans, because Maggie always had an edge to her. I don't go along with this. Maggie was a wimp and whatever. In 1970 parallel time, Maggie is the wimp to end all wimps. And nobody is likable. Barnabas is. Will after Barnabas bites him. And to a degree, Carolyn is pitiable. But other than that, and then Julia coming in, you're like, geez, I wish they would all drop dead. which they all basically do. Which they all basically do. I mean, everyone pretty much dies, in that storyline. So, it's but yeah, I agree.
His saying that he'll never stop loving Josette is exactly why I didn't buy Barnabas's declaration of love for a dying Angelique.
Laura Parker said it was a cop-out because the writers knew this was going to be the end of those characters. And they were, Curtis boxed them into a corner. And that's really why they did. Laura maintained, had the show continued, that never would have happened, because she said, I think eventually Catherine would have come back and the damn music box would have come out again, although it couldn't have because Michael Stroka had already stolen it and given it to a girlfriend. Want to know who has that? Who is that girl? Find her. But she said, all of a sudden, in milliseconds, he decides, think of the pain. He could have saved everybody if he had just realized that, So, yeah, I don't... Beautiful. Angelique is beautiful. And I maybe to some degree, he did have some kind of feelings for her, but it does negate everything they had been through, and that she was the reason he was the thing he was. So yeah, Laura said that was a cop-out, and only because the show was ending and they knew that we were never going to see those characters again. So I go along with you on that. Although they do play the moment beautifully, especially when she lifts the curse off of him. That's a BarnaBEST. That is the BarnaBEST for me, when she lifts the curse off of him and realizes it. I like that. I also like Julia's reaction to it. Julia, Angelique has saved us. Saved us for what? For what? That's a goodie. That's a goodie. Just before because I think when he takes the portrait to Sam Evans, because he's going to, I'll show you, and he brings Angelique's portrait to Sam Evans and says, I want you to age this. And my favorite line is, can you use brushes with extremely sharp bristles. And I'm like, he's got to be part Italian. Barnabas has got to be part. That's something an Italian guy would say, as I can say that as a paisan. You know, I want this to really hurt. You know, that's you know, and all of the mystery around, and you can't start till 10:15. You know, and she's there in the house, and it starts to happen. That coupled with before Nicholas is going, when Nicholas strips her, and she comes with the gun, I've been stripped of my powers, and I hate you, and he says, you've proven that. You know, that's another good one. Him and Cassandra. There's a lot of BarnaBEST in there. That's one of my favorites when she confronts him. You know, I'm going to die, and if I'm going to die, so are you. And she pulls out the gun. You know, and just as, you know, she's ready to shoot Barnabas, all of a sudden the arm falls limp, and they have a little match, and he shoots the ceiling of the old house. Of course, nothing falls down. You would think that they would have had some plaster fall down from up above, but that is one of my favorite moments too. Yeah. Was there anything else I missed? Oh, we were talking about Jason McGuire. Which one of us is the more righteous? This is after he's told Roger that he'll have a chat with Jason. And he goes, and there's Jason with his feet up on the couch in his smoking jacket. And, you know, I understand there's going to be a change in family relations and relationships. And I want to make sure that it doesn't fall into unscrupulous hands. And I wish he and Dennis had more scenes, because they had wonderful chemistry together. But that's another one, guys. If you look up on YouTube, it's labeled "Which one of us is more righteous than the other." That's a great scene between Barnabas and Jason. Beautifully written, beautifully played. You know, kudos all the way around on that.
Barbara has a Barna worst, which is I really do not like the 1841 storyline with him playing Bramwell.
You can thank Dan Curtis for that, Barbara. None of us wanted that. Not even Jonathan. It was a surprise. You know, this malarkey, this nonsense, this flat out, pardon my, if any kids watch, you know, bullshit, that Jonathan wanted to play a new character and didn't want to play Barnabas anymore. That was not Jonathan Frid. That was because Jonathan said, I don't want to play Barnabas in a movie again. I don't like what you've done with him in the movies, and I won't do that again. And Curtis tried to have him fired, realized he would be in major legal trouble if he did. He got a pink slip. Jonathan got a pink slip. And they said, you can't do that, you know, because he's got a contract. So Bramwell coincided with the end of Jonathan's contract. That's why the show ended when it did. No one knew. Hardly anybody knew what had really happened. Jonathan gave a paper interview about it at the time. But then he was a gentleman, and he kept up this charade that he wanted to play another character when it wasn't true. I have to go back. I'm going to be going back and watching 1841 Parallel Time myself. I can tell you, I was not a fan of Bramwell. I find him very unlikable. I find him extremely unlikable. Even though old Josette says, "Oh, you're just like your father," headstrong, which Barnabas was. There's no doubt about it that Barnabas was headstrong, but you know, Bramwell was unfortunately not. It was not Jonathan's doing. That was Dan Curtis's doing. So there you have it on that. Guys, it's so nice to have been back with all of you.
Yes, I love this.
I hope that Michael, I hope you're all right. I don't know if there was a discrepancy because we had almost a 3-hour chat talking about this last week. So I hope Michael is okay. And I know someone else is going to be joining us. I'm not going to say who. Someone will be joining us as a
Dark Shad Pro.
a Dark Shad Pro, or an honorary bro. Hey,
An honorary bro.
an honorary bro. When Penny Dreadful was on the show, she called herself a Dark Shad Ho.
Exactly.
So I think that's more Carolyn's
Milieu.
title, her milieu. But we thank you so much for tuning in. I meant to say this at the top. Like and subscribe, guys, please. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps us out a lot. So please hit like and subscribe. Tell your friends about us so we can get more people. If you have ideas for shows, let us know what you want us to discuss. We will be, we will be paying tribute to Angelique.
Mm-hmm.
And Laura Parker, separate and apart from, and some other ideas that we have. And any ideas you have, please send them our way. Don't forget to leave comments on the page, and continue to stay in the shadows. And good night. And if it's snowing, stay dry and warm. I forgot to take my water real quick.